Hello, everybody. I'm Sam Dostaler. Alongside me once again, Jimmy Kelley for this week's Springfield College Football Podcast. Springfield coming off a big win last week in the homecoming game, defeating Merchant Marine Academy 66-13. A lot of things went right for Springfield in that game. Jimmy, can you give us a few?
I mean, it's hard to pick a few things that went right when you score 66 points, but I think the biggest thing that went right was just up front in the trenches. The offensive line played very, very well, and the running backs were all throwing their blocks. Everybody was throwing blocks, and bringing Moreira for the huge plays. John Moreira, of course, ton of yards, ton of touchdowns, and he only played half of the game. So I think blocking was the biggest thing that went right for them. Defensively, you hold the number 9 rushing offense in the country to 40 yards on the ground, and you're doing something right. So defensively, they were definitely on point on Saturday.
Now, you mentioned John Moreira. I want to get into his performance a little bit more. Here are the numbers from that game on Saturday. He rushed for 144 yards and 3 touchdowns on just 15 carries. Then he threw for 163 yards on 6 of 8 passing and 4 touchdowns. It was a record-setting day for John Moreira. Can you get into that performance a little bit?
Yeah, everything was just going right for him. He's really started to settle in. This is his 3rd game as a starter. Or 3rd game playing, or 5th game playing, 3rd game as a starter. But he's really started to get into a flow with this offense. It's a very different looking offense than it was with Rob Merkling. It's a lot more explosive, a lot less running back dependent. And Moreira can throw the ball a little bit, as evidenced by the 4 touchdown passes. I was down the sideline for all 4 of them, and they were just beautiful throws. Stuff you can't teach. Getting it right over the safety, putting it in his receiver's hands right in stride, finding the open guy, and making the right decision. So it's hard to really pinpoint, again, one thing he did well, because it seemed like he did everything well. And you rack up 307 yards and 7 touchdowns in 15 minutes of football, and you're doing something right. So can't say enough about that. 4 touchdowns, ties the school record, last done by Kevin Cahill back in the year 2000 against UMass Dartmouth. So it's been a while since we've seen a performance like that, and it's definitely a little bit, it's pretty refreshing to see the ball getting slung around a little bit on the stacked field.
And those big numbers for Moreira also won him some awards. Yeah,
these earned the Liberty League Offensive Player of the Year Award, Player of the Week Award. Let's not get ahead of ourselves here, but making him the 3rd different member of the team to win it this season. He also won the prestigious Gridiron Club Gold Helmet Award, which is given out by the New England Football Writers Association, and he won the Division II, Division III awards. So out of all the Division II and Division III football schools in New England, John had the best offensive day, or the best day in general. He's only the 6th guy to win it. The Springfield's actually had somebody win the award each of the last couple of years, with Josh Carter winning it one time last year and Austin Bateman the year before that taking it home. So it's been a nice little week for Moreira, but he knows he's got to get back to work, and you can't just hang your hat on one game, even one as outstanding as this one was.
You mentioned this upcoming week a little bit there. Springfield College going back on the road to take on St. Lawrence. The Saints are 0-6 on the season, 0-3 in the Liberty League. But they do put up some points. They've put up 20 points in a couple of their Liberty League games so far. So what does the St. Lawrence team like to do?
Well, they like to throw the ball. Let's not tiptoe around that. They're a spread offense, so it's back to square one for this Springfield defense. After facing some of the triple option offense this week, they're going to go back to facing a shotgun spread. They haven't really been able to establish much of a running game this season. They throw it to everybody. They throw a lot of screens. They run a lot of package plays, meaning that they have a screen on one side of the formation and some routes on the other side. So on any given play, they look at the defense, like most teams do. They look at the defense and they adjust. but where they can hurt you is they can hurt you with the screens. They're fast, they're athletic, their quarterback's got a good arm, he's a good athlete as well. But do not look for much in the way of a rushing attack this week because they really haven't been able to do that at all this season in games against that we've seen them play against people that Springfield's played, a Union, Rochester. So it'll be interesting to see how this defense kind of reacts to being back against a pass-first spread offense.
I'll bring some players like Max Nasowitz, who's had a nice season up on the defensive line, back into the fold a little bit more. He's more of a pass rusher. St. Lawrence has struggled defensively this season, allowing 32.5 points per game through their first 6 games. Is this something Springfield's going to be able to capitalize on?
Yeah, it could be another high-scoring affair this week if Springfield can run their offense as well as they did last week. What I'd personally like to see is I'd like to see John take another step towards being an option quarterback as opposed to a running back who could throw the ball and make the reads. He did a good job on a couple plays last week of making the right read, making the right pitch, and he is athletic enough to make the plays on his own. But towards the end of the half, the running started to go away a little bit as they started to key on him a little bit. So I think the thing for him to do, that he needs to improve on this week, is getting kind of distributing the ball back around to the running backs, to Joel Altavista, to Mike Davis, to Andy Bean, or whoever else might end up in there behind them. Because John's a good athlete, he's a good runner, he's very hard to bring down in the open field, and it'll be that much harder for him to get tackled if the defense has to respect all 4 options in that backfield.
Now, before we wrap this up, just want to get a couple keys to the game for both sides. We'll start with St. Lawrence. What's their biggest key to the game?
Well, they're just going to have to execute. They're going to have to be near perfect offensively if they're going to come out of their own stadium and head back to their dorms and their own locker room with a win. They've struggled to stop anybody really this season, but we haven't seen them play a team like Springfield. Coach DeLong mentioned that he hasn't seen any film on how they defend the triple option. They haven't played Merchant Marine yet, so it'll be interesting to see how they handle that. They're going to have to execute both offensively and defensively. They're going to have to stay disciplined, and they're going to have to not look at the score, the stats from last week, or they're going to end up thinking that John Moreira is going to come in here looking like Mike Vick, and they're going to. And I'm talking about Virginia Tech Mike Vick, not Philadelphia Eagles Mike Vick. He's going to come in there and scare them straight. But so that's the key there for St. Lawrence. They got to stay locked in. They got to execute.
Now, on the other side of the ball, the keys to the game for Springfield.
Well, I think it's going to come down to the trenches again. On defensively, they're going to need to be able to get some pressure in the backfield. But they're also going to need to stay disciplined. That screen game is going to let them. There's going to be a lot of flow on that offense going around, and there's going to be a lot of penetration on the defense. And if they can stay disciplined in their pass rush and their rush, then they'll be able to blow up some of these screens. But guys like Max Nasowitz are going to have to step up and get some sacks because he hasn't had a chance. Didn't have a chance last week, so he's probably chomping at the bit to get out there and bring down a quarterback or two, if that's what it comes down to. And then offensively, like I said, John's just got to work on making his reads. He's getting better every week at it. He's getting better every week as a football player, and he's still young. He's just a freshman, and he's growing every game. So his maturity plus the execution on the defensive line and the physical force that is the offensive line are going to be the keys to victory.
And I know we talked about this before coming on. We talked about maybe not having you do a prediction. You've been a little off the last couple of weeks. You did have Springfield winning last week, but by a much closer score. So we're gonna throw you right back out there. What's your prediction for this week's game?
I'm gonna go with Springfield. God, you really put them on the spot. I'm gonna go 40-21. That's right on par with where St. Lawrence is allowing points. That's right on par where we're putting up points. And, I think that they're going to bust a screen or two, and they're going to put some points on the board. Maybe even get some points late if it gets ugly. That's my prediction.
All right, that's the prediction of Jimmy Kelley. Thanks very much for joining us, Jimmy. We're going to take a week off next week as Springfield has a bye. Then they return home for the weekend of November 3rd for their final regular season home game of the year. We'll be back with you that week with another podcast. I've been Sam Dostaler. Thanks for listening.